The temporal anomaly. The Craxian science vessel Veilbreaker drifted through the infinite darkness, its crystalline hull shimmering with an ethereal blue glow. Captain Drixnar stood motionless on the command deck, his four eyes fixed on the anomaly readings displayed across the holographic interface. The readings defied everything his species knew about temporal physics, everything they'd spent millennia cataloging in their vast libraries of knowledge. "Commander," Drixnar clicked in their harmonic language, his secondary vocal chambers resonating with concern. "Verify these readings again." Commander Threxel manipulated the controls with practiced ease, her tentacle-like appendages dancing across the interface. "Verified, Captain. The temporal disturbance is localized but intensifying. It's as if reality itself is bending. The anomaly appeared suddenly 3 cycles ago, a tear in the fabric of space-time that shouldn't exist according to Craxian science. Their empire spanned thousands of star systems. Their technology was unmatched, yet this phenomenon challenged their very understanding of the universe. "Prepare a probe," Drixnar ordered. "We must understand." Before he could finish, the ship lurched violently. Alarms screamed through the vessel as reality warped around them. Through the viewport, stars stretched into impossible shades, time itself seeming to fragment. "Captain," Threxel's voice carried genuine fear. "Something's emerging from the anomaly." In the center of their view screen, space twisted and folded like origami paper. A small object materialized, primitive by Craxian standards. It was a human escape pod, its design so basic it seemed almost insulting to their advanced sensibilities. "Life signs," Drixnar demanded. "1. Human," Threxel replied, disbelief coloring her harmonics. "But the readings are wrong. The temporal signature, it's fluctuating between states of existence." The pod drifted closer, seemingly unaffected by the gravitational forces that should have torn it apart. Drixnar made a decision that would forever alter the fate of his species. "Bring it aboard." Full containment protocols. The pod was secured in the isolation chamber within minutes. As the Craxian security team approached, the hatch opened with a gentle hiss. A human female stepped out, her movements casual, almost bored. She wore a simple flight suit, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her name tag read Dr. S. Chen. "About time," she said, stretching as if waking from a nap. "I was starting to think I'd have to wait another temporal iteration." The security team froze. Humans weren't supposed to speak Craxian. Their species had only achieved basic space travel. Their first contact protocols were still years away. Yet this human spoke their language perfectly, with nuances that took centuries to master. Drixnar entered the chamber, his towering form casting long shadows. "Human, explain your presence and your impossible knowledge of our language." Dr. Chen smiled, a gesture that seemed to contain more knowledge than any being should possess. "Captain Drixnar of the Veilbreaker, third son of House Velthrun, commander of the 17th Science Fleet. You're exactly as I remember you'll be." The captain's secondary hearts accelerated. "How do you know these things?" "Because," Sarah said, raising her hand, "time is not a river flowing in one direction. It's an ocean, and I've learned to swim." She snapped her fingers. The universe paused. Every Craxian in the room froze mid-motion. Displays stopped updating. Even the ambient hum of the ship's systems fell silent. Only Drixnar remained aware, his consciousness somehow preserved in this impossible moment. What have you done?" he managed to ask. "Given us a moment to talk without interruption," Sarah replied. "Your species is about to make a terrible mistake. In exactly 17 cycles, you'll discover what you believe is the secret to faster-than-light travel. You'll test it, and you'll accidentally create a cascade that will destroy not just your civilization, but several others." "Impossible," Drixnar protested. "Our calculations are based on incomplete understanding of temporal mechanics." Sarah walked to a nearby console, her fingers tracing patterns in the frozen holographic display. "I've seen it happen. I've lived through it. multiple times. With another gesture, she released time's flow. The crew resumed their activities, unaware of the pause. But now, temporal energy crackled around Sarah like lightning, visible proof of her impossible ability. "You're what caused the anomaly," Drixner realized. "You're bending time itself." "I'm a temporal navigator," Sarah explained. "One of 12 humans who developed this ability after an accident with quantum entanglement experiments. We saw the threads of possibility, the infinite paths time could take, and we saw the disasters that needed preventing." Threxel ran new scans, her voice trembling. "Captain, her cellular structure. It exists in multiple temporal states simultaneously. She's not just bending time, she's existing across it. I came to warn you," Sarah continued, "to help you avoid the mistake that will doom your people. But there's a price for changing destiny." As if on cue, the ship shuddered. Reality flickered around them like a failing hologram. Through the viewports, they could see other versions of their vessel, ghost ships existing in parallel timelines, some intact, some destroyed, all overlapping in a terrifying display. "The timeline is already fracturing," Sarah said grimly. "Every change creates ripples. Every decision splits reality. If we're not careful, we could shatter the continuum entirely." Drixnar's mind raced. His people prided themselves on their logic, their careful approach to science. But this human had demonstrated power beyond their comprehension, knowledge that defied their understanding. "Show me," he demanded. "Show me this future you claim to have seen." Sarah nodded solemnly. "Brace yourself, Captain. The truth is rarely gentle." She placed her hand on his forehead. Reality dissolved around them. Drixnar found himself floating above a dead world. The proud spires of the Craxian homeworld lay in ruins, the atmosphere burned away, the oceans boiled to nothing. Billions of his people gone in an instant. The cascade effect spread outward like a plague, consuming star system after star system. "This is what happens in 73% of timelines where you conduct the experiment," Sarah's voice echoed in his mind. "In 12%, the damage is contained but your civilization never recovers. In 9%, you become conquerors, using the technology as a weapon. Only in 6% of possibilities do you listen to my warning." The vision shifted. Now he saw humans and Craxians working together, building something magnificent among the stars, a future of cooperation, of shared knowledge and mutual growth. "This is what could be," Sarah whispered, "if you're willing to trust me." Reality snapped back into focus. Drixnar staggered, overwhelmed by what he'd witnessed. His crew rushed to support him, but he waved them away. "The experiment," he said slowly, "the one we've been planning, will crack the universe like an egg," Sarah finished. "Unless we change the approach, I can show you how to achieve what you want without destroying everything." "And the cost?" Drixnar asked, knowing there had to be one. Sarah's expression turned sad. "Every time I alter a timeline significantly, I lose a piece of myself. Memories fragment. Reality becomes less stable around me. Eventually, I'll cease to exist as a fixed point in time." "Then why do it?" "Because some things are worth sacrificing for. Your people have so much potential, Captain. In the timelines where we work together, we cure diseases, end wars, explore galaxies. The cost of one person's existence seems small compared to that." The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Paradox energy was building, reality straining under the weight of temporal manipulation. "We're running out of time," Sarah warned. "The longer I stay here, the more unstable things become. You have to decide now. Trust me and change your fate, or proceed with your plan and fulfill the destiny I've shown you." Drixnar looked at his crew, at the ship that represented the pinnacle of Craxian achievement, at the human who held the power to reshape reality itself. Pride warred with wisdom, tradition with possibility. "Show us," he said finally. "Show us the better way." Sarah smiled, relief evident in her features. "Thank you, Captain." Now, let me teach you about the true nature of time. As she began explaining concepts that would revolutionize Craxian science, neither of them noticed the small fracture forming in the corner of the room, a harbinger of complications yet to come. The timeline was already shifting, destiny rewriting itself, but the universe rarely yielded its secrets without a fight. Destiny's new thread. The fracture in reality grew like a cancer, spreading across the walls of the Veilbreaker's laboratory. Sarah Chen worked frantically at the quantum interface, her fingers dancing across controls that shouldn't exist yet, implementing changes to the Craxian FTL experiment design. Captain Trixnar stood beside her, his four eyes reflecting the swirling chaos of temporal energy. "The paradox is accelerating," Frexel reported, her voice tight with concern. "We're experiencing temporal bleed from at least 7 alternate timelines." Sarah didn't look up from her work. "I know. We're at a crucial junction point. Every change we make is causing reality to push back harder." Through the viewports, the crew could see ghost images of other ships, other versions of themselves making different choices. In one, the Veilbreaker was already destroyed. In another, it had become a weapon of conquest. The overlapping realities created a dizzying kaleidoscope of possibilities. "Dr. Chen," Drixner said formally, "my people have a saying. The universe abhors a paradox. What we're doing, it feels like we're breaking fundamental laws." "We are," Sarah admitted, "but sometimes you have to break the old rules to write better ones." She finished inputting the final calculations and turned to face him. "Captain, I need to show you something. Something I haven't shared with anyone else." She gestured, and time froze again. But this time, instead of simple stillness, the frozen moment shattered like glass, revealing the underlying structure of reality itself. Threads of possibility stretched in every direction, a cosmic web of cause and effect. "This is how I see the universe," Sarah explained. "Every choice, every action creates new threads. But look closer." Drixner leaned in, his advanced vision parsing the complex pattern. Then he saw it, a dark void spreading through the web, consuming timelines like a predator. "What is that?" "Entropy," Sarah said grimly. "Not the simple decay of energy, but temporal entropy. Every time someone manipulates time, it grows stronger. It's why there are only 12 of us left, why we have to be so careful. And yet you're here, manipulating time to save us. Because the alternative is worse. Your failed experiment doesn't just destroy your civilization. It creates a wound in space-time that the entropy can use to accelerate its spread. In every timeline where I don't intervene, the universe dies centuries sooner." The weight of revelation struck Drixner like a physical blow. "We're not just fighting for our survival. We're fighting for existence itself. Now you understand." Sarah released the frozen moment, and reality crashed back into motion. An alarm immediately blared. Frexel's voice carried real panic now. "Captain, the fractures are converging. We're at critical paradox levels." The ship bucked violently as competing timelines tried to assert dominance. Through the chaos, Sarah remained focused, her eyes blazing with determination. "We need to stabilize the timeline now," she declared. "Captain, you have to make the choice. Initiate the modified experiment." "But the readings. Trust me." Drixnar hesitated for only a moment before turning to his crew. "Initialize the modified FTL drive." Authorization, Drixnar Prime 7. The Veilbreaker's engines hummed to life, but instead of the violent energy surge they'd originally planned, the power built in controlled harmonics. Sarah had redesigned their entire approach, incorporating principles of temporal mechanics that wouldn't be discovered for centuries. Reality screamed around them as the ship began its transition. The fractures widened, alternate timelines bleeding through more strongly. They could see versions of themselves succeeding, failing, dying, conquering, all simultaneously. "Hold the course," Sarah shouted over the chaos. "The paradox will fight us, but we have to push through." She reached out with her power, not to freeze time, but to guide it. Like a conductor leading an orchestra, she began weaving the disparate timelines into harmony. The entropy fought back, trying to exploit the chaos, but Sarah had planned for this. "Captain," she called out, "I need you to do something that goes against every instinct. You have to let go of your certainty. Accept that multiple realities can coexist." "I don't understand." "Your species values logic above all else. But time isn't logical. It's quantum. It's not about choosing one path, but allowing all paths to exist in superposition until the right moment." Drixnar closed his primary eyes, reaching deep into the philosophical flexibility his rigid culture usually suppressed. He felt the ship existing in multiple states, felt his own consciousness spread across possibilities. I can feel it," he gasped. "We're everywhere and nowhere." "Exactly. Now, choose." In that moment of quantum uncertainty, Drixnar made the impossible choice. He chose all paths simultaneously. The Veilbreaker phased through reality, existing in a state of temporal superposition that should have been impossible. The entropy recoiled, unable to consume something that existed in all states at once. Sarah seized the opportunity, channeling every ounce of her power into stabilizing the new timeline they'd created. Light exploded through the ship as reality reasserted itself. When the crew's vision cleared, they found themselves in familiar space, but subtly changed. The stars were positioned slightly differently. Their instruments showed technologies that hadn't existed moments before. "We did it," Threxel breathed. "We actually did it." But Sarah was on her knees, her form flickering like a bad hologram. The effort had cost her dearly. "Dr. Chen." Drixnar rushed to her side. "It's all right," she managed to say. "This was always the price. But look what we've created." Through the viewports, they could see other ships, human and Craxian vessels working in harmony. The timeline had stabilized into something new, something better. "In this reality," Sarah explained weakly, "our species make contact peacefully. We share knowledge. We fight the entropy together." She looked up at Drixnar, her eyes filled with both triumph and sadness. "In this timeline, we win." "But you're dying," Drixnar protested. "Not dying. Becoming something else." She smiled as her form became more translucent. "I'll exist in the spaces between moments, guardian of this new timeline. And when the entropy threatens again, I'll be there." As Sarah Chen faded from physical existence, she left behind more than just a saved civilization. She left behind a legacy of cooperation, a future where two species would stand together against the darkness that threatened all of reality. Drixnar stood at the viewport long after she vanished, watching the new future unfold. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Captain, what are your orders?" Drixnar straightened, his bearing reflecting a new understanding of the universe's infinite possibilities. "Set course for Earth, Commander. It's time we properly introduced ourselves to our future allies." The Veilbreaker turned toward humanity's homeworld, carrying with it the first chapter of a story that would span galaxies. In the space between heartbeats, in the pause between thoughts, Sarah Chen watched and smiled. Time, after all, was just beginning.